Hello, everyone. Say anything to anybody?
Hello. In the US, you need a license to drive, you need a license to fish, you need a license for so many things that you just don't have the freedom to just do what you want to do. But any idiot can have a child,
See, this
okay?
is why
Which
this
has a much greater impact on society,
this is why
okay?
people tend without splitting hairs. I get what you're saying. This is why without splitting hairs, really briefly, there's a difference between a word father to daddy. You know why? Every pea-sized brain with a fully functional male genitalia can go and father and sire children across the globe with different women. But it takes a real man to be a responsible daddy, a dad. And I'm very lucky that when I was younger, I basked in in the light and the wisdom of a very great father who was near and dear to me, who passed away almost 20 years ago now. But um, I got to tell you, you're right. The scale is immeasurable. But remember what I said back in the back. Two things: people will always do what you allow them to get away with. That's one. Second, um, from too much order, eventually a volcano of chaos erupts. And eventually, after too much of, unfortunately, again, history have shown us that from too much chaos, bloodshed, wars over nothing, people fucking
Of
slitting their
course.
throats
Well,
over a can of peaches. Eventually, a new order is being established. That's why I'm telling you that.
Well, of
Uh,
course. Well, if you've ever lived out in the country, okay, and sometimes what will happen is all of a sudden you'll see a bunny rabbit, right? And then
yeah,
you'll see a dozen bunny rabbits, and then you'll see 100 bunny rabbits. You know what you see next? Coyotes,
yeah, well,
because
yeah,
they come looking for food. And
yes, but at this,
it's the natural order of things where nature will regulate itself.
yeah, but when
Okay.
there's, how
And
do you
I just
hold
want
the
to finish
appetite
this
intervention?
thought. Okay. So hundreds of years ago, when society was much more rugged, nature would basically, that's where the strongest would survive. That's where it comes down to. Now in society, and I had this conversation with Gonzalo Lira, where now we have people who probably would have been left on the rocks at birth. They're now the ones who are actually in governments, leading these governments. Okay, now maybe it's just because they're easier to control, but this is the. I'm not sure that it's a very complicated topic because at the end of the day, maybe the term evil is harsh because maybe the people that I am saying are evil are simply just making the decisions that you have to make when you have to decision who stays and who goes.
Could be, but let me ask you this, and I totally agree with every word you just said, but here's when the not the rational, logical, using common sense kicks in. This is what makes us human beings with the soul. This is where the emotional comes into the equation. Now, usually you say, okay, don't base your life altering decision based on emotions, but combine the two together, uh, common sense and emotions, you get natural instincts. Instinct. Whether there'll be natural or impulsiveness that we force on ourselves, knowingly, unknowingly, it's debatable. But um, what I'm trying to say is, okay, I'm gonna go on a limb here, and you don't have to tell me if you don't want to. I totally respect that. After all, it's still recorded conversation. But you tell me right now, have you ever been? Are you married right now, or have you ever been married?
No.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Not judging. Not judging. It's not my place, and I don't even hurt. Um, hold personal view about it, and if I do, it's actually in your favor. There's no incentive nowadays even to do that move. I gotta be honest with you. Even though I got beautiful children, I love them to be. I'll die for each one of them 10,000, die and be resurrected 10,000 times for each and every one of them. Um, but you see, when you become a father and a daddy who loves his children and they love him back, and you see them every morning when they wake up and every night before they go to sleep, and you know, this is my this is my hive,
Yeah, I
allegedly.
get it. I
Mhm.
understand all this. I mean, just
Okay.
because I'm not a father and I'm not
Oh no.
married doesn't mean I don't understand how strong those emotions are
Okay, fair
and
enough.
those bonds. I mean,
Which
again,
is
that
good,
goes to you can see videos where a mother deer will jump in front of a danger to protect its child. I
yeah.
mean, that's ingrained in us.
But that's my point exactly. So you're saying, so you said something again. I'm not just talking about the power, the people at power, or the this
Well,
the
think about this, Elishay. I mean, it's to overcome that. I mean, to actually make these decisions on who lives and who dies. That's a very difficult job.
true, but you know what? Some people kind of like make it looks like it easy, and their rationale is messed up. Uh, Okay, you know what? I'll be able to forgive you if you come and tell me the truth to my face. Okay, this group or this region and this region has to be wiped out, and here's the truth, and here's why. You want to hear why right now before I go into the cultural, subcultural level of the Israeli mindset? Because the elites of that region in the world, the 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 elites from Tel Aviv and Caesarea and Herzliya, all those wealthy, privileged people, and they're spoiled brats of children who are allegedly educated, but not as much as they want they want you to think they are. There's things, there's the way things appear, and then there's the way things actually are. So let me tell you this. Okay, they saying, "Oh, it's a religious war. It's a religious war.
Now, we're
it's a."
specifically talking about what's going on in Gaza right now, or something else.
No, no, we're talking about specifically what's going on in Gaza right now, but what was
Okay.
going on, because this is not the first time that there's back and forth between Gaza or Judea and Samaria, or what people call this the West Bank, like Ramallah or Jenin or Tulkarem and all those places that are like. First and foremost, who are the Palestinian people? Where did they came from? We discussed where the Jews, the descendants of the sons of Israel, came from. Who are the Palestinians and where they came from? Well, the vast majority of them are Muslim, true, but from where and how do they came to be? Do you remember the Roman Empire that in time became the Holy Catholic Roman Empire, and then there was this split in time? Obviously, like I'm getting ahead of myself because it's a long time stretch, talking about hundreds of years of difference between those timelines, maybe even 1,000. uh, but my question, after the big split between the Eastern Roman Empire to the Western Roman Empire, before all that, when the Romans again conquered Jerusalem and the Kingdom of Israel, and then because of internal clashes and struggling, uh, eventually they crumbled and they were taken over by the Germanian tribe east to the Rhine River, what we know today as Germany. They weren't Germans, they were called Germanians. Okay. By the way, there's also a special mint called the Germanian mint. Germanians are the modern
Yeah, we're going off on a tangent, though, amigo.
fair
This
enough.
is we're
Here-
an hour into this, and we're no closer to the objective here.
okay, hear me out. So when they started to crumble and fade away, who slightly started to come in? Who came after the Roman Empire to control that region of the world in a vast area of land?
In the German area?
No. After the Roman Empire crumbled down and the Germanian took over, and then in
Yeah,
roll over
you broke into smaller tribes.
exactly. But then came the Ottoman Empire, the Turks. Okay, under
But I don't think they went as far as the Roman Empire.
no, they didn't. But Ataturk, the ruler of the
I
Ottoman,
mean, but they took over Constantinople, right? They turned it,
yes, but still, when it came to the ruler of the Ottoman Empire, he had a very simple constitution, very simple one.
Okay.
Everybody is welcome. Everybody under the same law, abide by the same rules. I don't care your skin color. I don't care about your religion. I don't care about anything. Anything. That was way after uh, the great warlord of Salahuddin. That's even, I think, before, after, or during the Roman Empire. Either way, I think it was before. Anyway, not to confuse you or people, but basically, before uh, a lot of comfortability, spoilness, and a lot of corruption that festered and started to spread its rot around in and around the Roman Empire. And if you ask me, it was by design from outsiders that infiltrated the Ottoman Empire. Not because the Ottoman Empire was bad, it's because people who wanted to disassemble it started to decay it from the within. Case in point will be what's happening today in the United States, in the UK, and pretty much everywhere in the West. Outside interference dictates to the locals and the natives, and they got a lot of sway and influence. Um, so
Well,
when
this is where it comes down to. I mean, it's if you have any system that works, okay,
yeah,
it relies on fiduciary responsibility. It means that your role is more important than yourself. And
yeah, it's bigger than me, of
once you
course.
start you putting your friends, and yourself above your responsibility, then the system falls apart. Okay. And this is where, unfortunately, human nature is what it is, amigo. And sometimes this is where rules and laws have consequences, okay, as God says, he gives us free choice, he gives us free will. Well, that means that there are consequences with our choices.
Yes.
There's punishment. And that's the problem today. Is everybody thinks that everything is free and that there is no punishment for our choices. And so that's why we're
Yeah.
seeing that's why you see those decays of those places, because if you were put into a position of authority, of power, and you violate that trust, then your punishment, for all intents purposes, you have to die. You have to be eliminated.
Well, if
Okay, and
it's
you
in this
have to
world,
be
the next
replaced.
punishment will arrive. That's for sure.
Okay, and I'm sorry for talking so harshly to people who can't handle it, but that's how the
No.
world. That's how an organized world works. Is the weak, the people who because the people. Okay, you could say fine, put them in a prison cell, but let's just say you have to, for those people who have proven that they're looking out for themselves at the expense of somebody else, that's a form of evil. Okay, because you took an oath. You took an oath to do a certain job, to basically take care of a certain responsibility, and you are making a conscious choice to put yourself and your group above what you swore an oath to. And that's why oaths are so important, because an oath only means something when it has consequences if you violate that oath. And that's why we have the world we have today, because nobody, you have to wonder, okay, did you take your oath to the United States, or did you take your oath to Israel, or did you take your oath to some secret society? Well, whatever it is, you can only take an oath to one group, to one responsibility. And
Yeah, one man cannot serve two masters.
so when you say I have children and I would die for them, okay. So if I said I'm gonna cut your kid's throat right in front of you, amigo, I'm gonna kill your kid unless you give me the secrets that at whatever your responsibility was to. How many people would have who would choose to let their child die?
Not many.
Well, there you go.
Not many, if
So
any.
now you're saying your child. So if you were in charge of a nuclear program, or you could make 1,000 different decisions about. Okay, so I gave you the secret sauce to the KFC chicken. Not so big, maybe, but I just gave you the launch codes, or I gave you a nuclear bomb in exchange for saving my child's life. At some point, our society has to get back to where you have the freedom to live whatever life you want, but there's also consequences. But if you decide that you can go do what you want, but that government's going to support you, or that, what
You're
I'm getting
talking
at?
about, yeah, you're talking about consequences of the choices we make. So basically, if I take your analogy and say, okay, am I going to choose my children's life over millions and possibly even hundreds of millions of other men, women, and other children? Or am I going to say, okay, I get the big picture. Um, I'm not giving you the fucking codes or the secret conglomerate for some sauce. Eliminate them, pop them. But when you do that, make sure to pop me as well, because if you leave me alive, I'm going to come and hunt you down like the dog you are, like the evil one. But then again, you come in insane. You come in from a point of view, and again, I'm not contradicting anything and everything you just said, because it's God's honest truth. But again, you look, you and I are we have a lot in common, more than you know, by just stating what you just did. And here's why. Human nature, you just said that's part of human nature to do, and you listed a few things, but that's the angle. Specifically, we're focusing on that because unfortunately, that's how the vast majority of the world that is like today, hyper individualism. Me, now. Let the nanny state take care of me from the cradle to the grave. Yeah, I get it. I get it. But again, your everyday average Jack and Jill, whatever. Um, they're very usually, again and again, for every usual you got the unusual. A bit rare, but again, a bit more rare, but still. Uh, so your
Well,
everyday.
like Eisenhower or Churchill or Stalin or Hitler or anybody who's been in a position of authority and power, you're going to have to make these difficult choices.
Yes, but also on our individual life, like can you honest to God, like tell me that right now, even as an individual who's not in charge on a little village or on a city or on a country or on an entire continent, can you tell me also on your own individual level or even on your local level where you reside, where you live right now? You don't have to use difficult choices. Like sometimes, okay, I'm living within my means, within my budget. I don't want to come to a point when I'm doing a wrong decision and then I have to choose, like what do I do? Do I have to choose between vitamins to food, or
Well, it
just
comes
as an
right.
example?
It comes down to fear and ignorance. Really, are the two really things that stop most people. I think most people, me included, there's so many things I'm ignorant of, and ignorance doesn't mean stupidity. It just means I have
Uneducated,
no,
I'm aware
I,
of. I'm not aware of.
there's only so many hours in a day, right? And when you're on a treadmill trying to survive, you can't you can't be bothered because if think about most people you know probably, I mean, if if one thing went sideways, they'd all of a sudden be in bad shape economically. And unfortunately, in our world today is all about economics today. It's all about money today.
No, well, yes and no. I would say, but look,
I don't
most people.
know.
You
The
just you
United
just you
States
just mentioned
is,
something. You just mentioned something really important, like a hamster on the spinning wheel, and if you're on the treadmill trying to keep on running to survive. And yeah, I agree with you. Most people let's put it in perspective over here. And I know
well,
I'm gonna say,
like
I know I'm gonna.
why don't you have 6 children? Why don't you have 8 children? Why don't you have 10 children?
That's a good question, actually. No,
Money.
no, 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 no. I gotta be honest with you. That's not the reason why.
Well, that's
It's
why
not
it is for most people, and it's why young people. One reason why young people aren't getting married and having children because of money.
fair enough. In my case, that's not the reason. Mine is like from two, three other reasons, but like it's more like on the personal. I can tell it to you when we get offline if you want me to, via
No,
WhatsApp conversation.
I'm not trying. Okay, well,
No,
we'll
no,
just
I'm
keep
just
it the generic. Why aren't people right?
okay. So yeah, so the main consideration is like about like funds and resources, how to raise them, or not to engage in it to begin with, like 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 those fucking things. Like it's an acronym of like dual income, no kids. They call themselves
Yeah,
dinks.
dinks, right?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
because children are a lot of work.
yeah. But they're also. It's not just a lot of work. You're looking at again. You're looking.
But
Hear me
you
out.
agree your life changed completely when you had children. You said
Y- yes, 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 yes. In a lot
so.
of in the vast majority of ways, they changed completely when I had children. When I became a father and a daddy and a loving and a caring and overprotecting while at it. But my main point is that, like, look, so far you gave me examples, and I totally respect it, and I totally agree with it to the degree of 95% of it. But think about it this way: so far, the example you gave is about. Unfortunately, that's human nature, amigo. But yeah, but that's the bad, dark, corrupted side of human nature. There's another side to human nature, and I'm pretty sure you are well aware of that side as well. Whether whether if we put it on the scale and see what's more dominant, like is that the evil and the bad and the corrupted side, or the good, shining, caring, loving, like okay, um, I'm gonna do the right thing, not necessarily what suits me, or I'm not gonna perform and execute. Whether if I took an oath, a vow, made a promise, in officially, unofficially, to take it over, to basically to serve my duties in a political, to take office, role of some sort. That I got a lot of responsibility, not just of who I deem to be important enough to get that kind of attention and care. Um, you're right. Again, like we, there's an old saying: "Do not judge a person until you've been in his shoes or in his position."
Mhm.
Now, obviously, that's not the case with crush test dummies like Joe Biden and his entourage. We know who are they, who they work for, who's really pulling the strings, and what they're all about. Obviously, I'm not gonna give that because then I'll sound totally stupid, and I don't want that. But again, um,
Well,
there is certain situations that in life, whether if it's one individual to another, one group to another, that you cannot judge until you've been in their situation. You can pass fully formed judgment and see it from their side point of view or narrative. you I mean, you can do that, but it wouldn't be fully fair. You gave the angle of like, okay, this is just human nature, survivalism. Okay, that's when we on survival mode, which we've been since time immemorial, and right now we're going to the hyper mode again. I think we're going into a modern dark ages, modern time dark ages. That's where I think humanity's headed. Obviously, I don't want it to be like that. I wish that everything will be flourishing and prosperous for everyone. But that's wishful thinking. I don't see and I don't view the world the way I want it to be. I view the world the way it is. I don't view the world the way I want it to be. Obviously, I want everybody to be, helping each other. Okay, let's go back to free trade. David, what do you say? I'm a fisherman. You're a farmer. I provide you with 9, 10 kilos of different type of fish. You provide me with 30 to 40 kilos of different fruits and vegetables, because that's kind of like the fair ratio we established between you and I. And you know what? I like to come back to you because you're an honest guy. You're a decent guy with high integrity, and your fruits and vegetables are the freshest in the market. So I'm not even going to bother to come into the market to trade with you in the market in front of everyone else. I'm just going to supply you directly to your house, and then I'm going to go with my wagon or my car to get it. Just as you gave the example about like we need to, and by the way, that's a bit new to me. I don't know if it stick to the all of the 50 states, but you said we need a driving license in order to drive, and we need a fishing license. I mean, is that something new? Is that something relatively new, or is it something?
Every year, the Congress
Mm.
passes laws that
Suffocate the people more?
it's a telephone book. It's a
Yeah, 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 but
telephone book. It's all of us are breaking the law every day in some way because of these stupid laws.
who
And
the fuck is there to enforce them anyway? Who's gonna enforce them? Tell me,
oh,
if I go right now.
don't worry. That's why we can't go down this path, because it will take us off on another tangent. The This is what happens when you let government create regulations and laws, because it's it's a very you know
You want to hear what you were?
as long as you allow government to make all of these decisions, this is why we have this world we have, because you're expecting government to solve all these problems.
No,
When
I don't.
when you basically, the only thing government should be doing is providing protection for its citizens against,
Foreign
that's,
invaders,
yeah, I mean,
domestic or foreign. Yeah,
because if you're dead, you don't have anything else to worry about on earth, that's for sure. And so the
yeah.
rest,
But if your entire
especially,
population, if your entire population is that you don't have constituency either, so you better take care of them. Hmm.
well, actually, that's coming to an end, I think. That's another topic for another day. With the way androids and robots are going, and automation, you don't need, the number one job for men without a college education in the United States is a truck driver of some sort, whether it's driving a truck, a delivery truck, UPS, FedEx, courier driver. Okay.
Hmm.
In a few years, those guys you won't need them. You won't need them.
Okay, I agree, but I don't think it's just a few years down the line. I think they got far more where to go. Like, because the navigating system of like a combination of satellites with AI with automated
But
car.
it's no, it's very easy to it's if a government wanted to make that a priority, it would be something that would be pretty simple to
Okay,
to change. And
I
if
I
you and
agree.
if
I
you
would be.
eliminate 50 to 80% of the people, you now have the space and the to be able to rearrange the way the infrastructure is set up.
Yeah,
Okay.
but on the let's go let's go into some, not all details, but into some details. Okay, do you know, like, let's say, nothing is perfect in this life, uh, and even human inventions. So let's say right now, entire smart cities, smart homes, smart infrastructure that also draw a lot of electricity from the grid, or maybe they'll self-powering with a little nuclear engine or hydrogen hybrid with electricity, which that's where the real future reside, not fucking EVs, which are just a scam, including Tesla, by the way. No offense to Elon Musk, which I don't know how to toss the coin with him just yet, but we'll see. My main point is if you depopulate the human race and the human resources, as they like to call it, and you populate the world with, uh, say, self-driving cars,
Well,
buses,
take your
trains.
emotions out of it. Take your emotions out of it. Think of, instead of thinking it as people, think of it as you have too many rabbits. There's not enough food for the rabbits.
Okay, I get what you're saying again, but again, go to the bottom of my thought. Like, let me finish the thought process. If you populate, like, let's say, because again, human beings and rabbits are not the same as a goddamn metallic robot or an android. Even in the animal kingdom and especially human beings, we can feel pain, and we can express our emotions or our thoughts when we feel it.
I understand that, but if
Machines,
you look at the history of man and technology, man has always replaced people with machines. Always. Always
yeah,
has, always
in
will.
on an industrial revolution. How will it play out this time around? We'll see. Because just like that,
It's the same thing. It's already, you know, 30
we're
years,
already in it. I
it
know.
wasn't that long ago. 30 years ago, computers were not standard in offices and companies.
Now it's a mandatory bullshit.
No, I mean, I when I got my first like adult job, I was working at a major company and we were still using green sheets. We were keeping ledgers
And
and
pens
books,
and pencils. Yeah, 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 yeah.
okay? So we actually had a full department, a bookkeeping department just to do this stuff. Those people are long gone, long
Yeah,
gone.
yeah, I know. I
I,
totally
I
agree.
remember I was there when we were downsized. They were eliminating a whole department. I was a raw recruit, and I was taking over the job of like 10 or 12 people using a computer. I was writing programs on computers that basically could replace dozens of people. You're seeing it today in fast food restaurants where there are now restaurants where they'll have, you know, is it an accident that all these restaurants are now going to delivery and drive up only?
No, it's not.
Right?
But that's where the paradox comes in of choices that we make as people. Because, okay, technology and advancement brings a lot of com- people would like to call it comfortability and progress. The future looks bright. Okay, a lot of comfortability with it. Fair enough, but it also attracts a lot of bugs and bad things with it, which brings about the elimination of the elimination or the necessity of the human element. Um, I'm not one of those fans of that. For example, nowadays, whether if I want to go to the local GP, the general practice, to see my doctor, which I don't really wouldn't want to see him under any circumstance, even a routine check. They can go to hell after what they did to us in the last 5 years and ongoing, and probably will go. I want to see a banker. I always like the face-to-face human element conversation in front of a bank clerk or a doctor or whatever official or unofficial. I like face to face. like the good old times. I do not like the second best thing would be over the phone. I don't like those automated machine that tell me, in your words, please tell me why are you calling, and then like yes or no, or you describe in a short sentence, and then like it's taking over a complete calling center. They shrinking them as it is, even what's left of them, and or for that matter, when you're saying those restaurants went to deliveries and there's no more necessities of like people actually going out to the
LSA,
world.
yeah, it goes back to what we talked about back in the beginning of Neanderthals, like you were saying. They were worried about basic survival. Their group was going to defeat the other group because they needed the food. They needed the cave.
Yeah, but
They stole
that's my
the other
point.
guy's woman.
But that's the point I was trying to make to begin with. You're right about what you're saying, but the Neanderthal thing type
So
of thing.
in today's world, if you are not a productive member of society, why does society need you?
That's what. But that
Because you're
exact.
somebody's son? Because all these people who think that their child is the most special child in the world, when
No,
in
but I'm sorry, but
reality,
there's another. I'm sorry, David, but there's another angle to this. What if not? I'm not nobody's son. I'm not contributing to society. Not necessarily because I'm somebody's son. Maybe I'm just.
no, I'm playing devil's advocate here, and
I
this
get
is
it.
what happens. These are the type of decisions
Yeah,
that
but what if
there
what
are
if I'm
people making
what if
these
I'm a
decisions.
total. Yeah, okay, I get what you're saying, but what if I'm a total commoner who's totally self-sufficient and I don't need anything from anyone else and I don't want to give anything
If
to
you're
anyone.
living in London, it's impossible to be self-sufficient.
I know
And the
that I'm
same
not.
thing for me in Mexico City.
I
Impossible.
know, which is why I know for a fact that in the long haul, which is not that long from now, I'm not going to be here anymore. It, listen, if I have to go outside to the countryside, to rural areas, the equivalent of rural areas of forestry, equivalent in the United States to rural areas, farm, not necessarily farmland because it's privately owned, but let's say rural areas, and establish my own camp, whether if it's by myself, uh, when I'm saying by myself, it's my family included, but or with like-minded people, I'll do it, and we'll start for fucking scraps. We will start from tents. We'll start from wood cabins that we're gonna build on the day, and then improve in time. And we create a community of no more than, I don't know, 70 to 100 people. And these guys know medicine, and these guys know how to hunt, and these guys know
Well,
how
guess
to
what?
do something.
That's what it was like thousands of years ago.
Yeah,
Until
okay, but
some other group came along who was bigger and stronger and took what you had.
okay, fair enough. So if that's the case, as long as it's not the fucking government, uh, then fair enough. If that's the case, then it's no longer live and let live. It's the survival of the fittest, the survival of the strongest. The only
Well, the
thing is that
problem with
I
the
would say,
government, the problem with the government is as soon as this is like you said before, you're not going to get 10 people in a room and have everybody agree upon anything, right? Very few. And so when you have a government that has the power to take your life, literally take your life, put you in a cage, kill you, make you do things that you don't want to do, that's the danger of a government. Because now, for example, you brought Ukraine and Gaza and these other things. So now we have somebody making the decision that they're going to ban TikTok and they're going to take billions and they're going to send it to whoever they're sending it to, whether you agree with these things or not. And this is the problem, is that's why a government should be, and we do have a constitution that does this, but today the United States government does not follow its own constitution. So you can have the law of the land, but if it's ignored and nobody's standing up and saying this is unacceptable, then we're going to get what we deserve. We're going to get what we deserve, which
who's
means
we? Who's we? You're not one of the we. You are
I
unique
am
candidate.
because I am a citizen of the United States, and I'm not going and camping myself in Washington D.C. until they change this. And the reason I don't is
Or chain yourself
because
into a fence. I get it. Or glue yourself into a fucking asphalt of the road. I get what you're saying. But
okay,
listen,
because yeah, it's
okay, go on. Sorry, go on.
yeah.
I
Well,
don't want to interrupt.
this is the way it is right now. Is I think it's much harder today to to try to create a society that that is fair and balanced, because I think it's an illusion that everybody is going to be satisfied with whatever the government chooses to do. And this is why I've always believed in a very limited government, because then it puts that power into your hands. If you're going to choose to do nothing, then you're going to get nothing.
Listen, I'm like-minded, like just like you, David. But like, I think we way past that threshold of like doing something about it and keep
I agree
government
with you. I
government.
agree with you. And I think that's why the people who are in power, it's like I've told this story before, and maybe you've heard it, maybe you haven't. When I bought my house in New Hampshire, there were 50 or 90, there were 50, 60, 70 trees on a very small lot. They were like 80, 90 feet tall.
Wow.
The only thing I could do was, it was impossible to try to manipulate it. Sometimes the only thing that you can do is to knock everything down and start with a clean slate. It's like when you see an artist, right? They're painting something and there's something that they absolutely hate. What do? They usually paint over it
Yeah.
and start over. And I
Yeah.
think, unfortunately, that's where we are in our world today. Is I think what has happened is we've gone down the wrong path, and it is impossible to retrace our steps now. It's impossible. There's just too many people. There's too much crap. It's just there's,
And the scarcity of resources. But let me ask you
and
this:
also the mentality of people.
that was about to be
Just in 200 years, I mean, in 200 years, we've become we
decadent.
can't sustain ourselves.
Yeah, but that's what was about to be my next question, because you and I are coming from one or two last generations that actually have not just intellectual skills but also physical skill to hone and to master. And some skills, unfortunately, also cannot be taught, can only be acquired. Um, Either you born with it or you don't. So yeah, but again, there's a lot of sense, but also a lot of paradox, at least in the back of my mind. And again, it's my opinion, and without me being sound like a socialist liptard, like a chicom or a communist or something like that. On the one hand, you bring like, okay, this is part of human nature. This is unfortunately like, okay, this is the bad side, but there's also the good side on the one hand. And you're saying that like, um the people who are running the show today are people that, like, let's say society as a whole 100, 200, 500, 1000 years ago would have left them in the side of the road just to where and perish. These are the people who are actually calling the shots. Okay, well, without sound so
No, no, those are the pawns. No, those are
okay,
the pawns.
pawns, but every
They're
day
not
they're
the ones
either
calling the shots. They're the ones taking orders.
okay, what they're making the appearance of calling the shots. I get what you're saying, but what I'm saying, like, the people who are calling the shots are the deformed, retarded, disgusting, vomitous, like, people that you would leave in the side of the road, like, just to perish and die and walk away, like, because this is not. We don't want the meek and the weak. Yeah, I mean, like the wicked and the
Well,
uh,
let me ask you this.
but this is
If
my question. Hold on, let me just,
Well,
if I
what's
may,
your point?
what one of my children, for example, and it's part of my group, my unit, which form up eventually a tribe, has a rare neurological condition. The, that in some ways limits her. Does that mean she cannot, and she couldn't, she can't, and she will not be able to contribute to society? No. Does that mean that if she was to be born 1,000 years ago, there is a high probability she will be left in the side of the road? Yes. Uh, can we or should we do the same thing today? This is not the liptard in me talk. This is the daddy, the father in me. And again, this is the clash between pure logic, common sense, to the emotional level. This is where they meet, and this is where the explosion of the paradox comes into fruition. This is what I've been trying to tell you. Like, so you can't. I mean, sometimes you have to choose one or the other. Cut and dry Neanderthal thinking of survivalism, or being in a survival mode, or choose the path that led us to where we are today. Like everything, okay, everything's acceptable and everyone acceptable and everything goes, and there's no licentiousness and there's no depravity, and there's nothing private anymore. And yeah, even if you're married, that's fine. Go to swingers parties and all that crap and all the. Okay, you know what? Whatever the world or certain groups or states or nations or the world collectively, whatever individuals choose to do, okay, if it's within the boundaries, okay, we can be a part of anything and everything, good or bad or somewhere in between. But if it's something that, like, it's not within those boundaries, keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself. For example, okay, those people from the community, from the gay people and the lesbian, the LGBTQI, whatever they call themselves nowadays. They've been claiming they've been oppressed for years on end right now. No, they haven't. No, they haven't. Men went with men, and women went with women, or a pyramid of 19 of all of the above, and even with children since the time of ancient Greece and Rome. So don't give me that. It's just that, like, if it wasn't the elite of back then then they kept it to themselves, to the private bathhouses, to the private privacy of the door. Oh, you know what? I'm not gonna say I approve. I don't like it, but look, if a man likes another man or a woman likes another woman, it makes you happy. Fine. You don't have to bring it down to the level, to the street level or to the school level, and dance half naked in the streets when everything is all out, and whole families that went into the nearby farmers market, among them children, can see it, or in the uh, next day, I don't know, afternoon, evening news, 7 o'clock, children are still having their supper or before bedtime, and they get to see that modern, say, Sodom and Gomorrah crap. You get where I'm coming from? Now, that's one angle to this. It's actually more than one, but what I'm trying to say is that, like, I get what you're saying, David, and I totally agree with you. All I'm saying is, like, when push comes to shove, if it comes down to it, uh, 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 total
If
effing war
I
of
think,
survival,
just
I
my
can accept
opinion,
that. I can accept that. I can accept that. But not if it was predetermined and pre-designed by a ruthless, corrupted, non-pragmatic government. And even as a Jew, as a Jewish person, I shouldn't be held accountable for the dumbass decision. Because, as I stated before, you remember when we started the conversation, um, I told you there's 203, 204 countries recognized independent by the UN. Over 100 and something of them are Christian based, 64 Muslim countries, uh, 22 of them from the Arab ethnicity, and then you got the few countries of, like, multicultural: Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Baha'i. You got only one Jewish state, and it's in the size of, like, what, New Jersey, El Salvador. It's like literally a piss puddle, yeah. and even for
Well,
that,
if somebody decided that they didn't want Ukrainians anymore, I don't know, 500,000 dead Ukrainians over the last
more,
couple of years.
way more.
My point is
Yeah.
that's depopulation.
Yes. What do you think
Okay? How many
the
people in Gaza are dead now? 30, 40,000?
uh I think it's over 50, and total casualties is 100,000, but the vast majority are wounded in different degrees. But yeah, there's
Yep.
a
Abortion,
few tens of
60,
thousands dead.
60. In the United States alone, I think 60 million babies have been aborted since 1972.
How much?
60 million
60 million babies were
babies
aborted since.
in 50 years.
I think you're a bit off. I think it's, if you're taking a timeline stretch from 1962 until now, then it's slightly more than 60 million. Because
Yeah.
that this is just the
It
official
doesn't it
figures.
doesn't matter. My point is these are all depopulation efforts.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, that's true.
barring a
That's true.
nuclear war, China's one child policy. Now they're a shrinking country compared to what they were.
Yeah, and they got shortage of women in marriage and conception age of like conceive a
Yeah,
child.
th- that's fine. I mean, if you want to maintain a billion people,
No, no. India is close to a billion. The world population right now is 8.2, 8.3 billion people. 1 billion is 1,000 times a million. India alone is closing up to 1 billion people. China is already like going towards the benchmark of 1.7, 1.8 billion people. That's almost that's almost a quarter of the world population only in China. They at one point, yeah,
yeah,
one
India and
point,
China are the two largest countries. Yeah,
population wise, not necessarily territorial wise, like in
we're
square
talking
kilometers.
population. Yes.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, like, so yeah, they're overpopulated, true, but is it within our rights and within our
Okay,
means to make
so we go to we
decisions
go to
for
the jabs, right? What if the jab leads to a 50% reduction in the ability to people have children over the next 50 years?
fertility rates? It's already happening. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, all of a sudden the world population in 100 years will be half.
Less than half, actually. I always heard talks, dark. That's true evil. Dark evil thoughts, always in the range of 490 to maximum 560 million. Always in that range. Always. I don't know what the fuck
Even
is.
well, it comes down to the bottom line is here's something, and we haven't even gotten into what is the purpose for people being on this earth. I mean, many people believe that this is a way station onto salvation, right? It's the end goal is to be saved, and to Christians believe to go into heaven and to be with Jesus Christ, to God. you know Jews, I don't know what do Jews believe. Do
Same
Jews
thing.
believe in salvation?
Yeah, the nesting and testing ground, and then like basically when the Messiah, I told you, same God, and under different names, different
Yeah,
Messiahs. Jews believe that like when the Messiah comes back,
but Jews don't believe that Jesus took the curse off of man. So do Jews believe that there's actually a heaven, a salvation, or do you believe that you go into purgatory?
no, we do believe there's heaven and salvation, but in a different way. Basically, we believe when the Messiah comes, he's gonna probably slaughter Satan and his minions. Basically, hell and is going to be empty. It's similar to what the Muslim says, but in a much more ancient scripture. Hell's going to be empty, and the the divine heavens will merge with the kingdom of earth. In other words, instead of like having hell on earth, you're going to have heaven on earth. The merge that they say that according to the messianic revelations for the end of days, or basically there will be a merger between the kingdom of heaven and the kingdom of earth, but until that day comes, There's a lot of things that needs to happen in a not necessarily in a particular order, but that's let's put it this way: a lot of people will die. It, get into that process. They believe
So
not
why
necessarily that
so
they need
why are
to.
you on this earth and why am I on this earth? Is it just we just won the lottery and our sperm happened to reach the egg first, or was
No,
there a grand plan?
there was a grand plan, a grand design to begin with, but the untouched niche that God Almighty left us is called free will. Some of us, from whatever religion you're coming from or ethnic background, choose to believe him. Some choose to completely ignore him. Some choose to like curse him. Some people choose to even become atheists and don't believe really in anything. He doesn't. They don't believe in like that soy boy, granola boy. The I don't know if he's the right hand man, though the hand is Klaus Schwab wipes his ass with. Yuval Noah Harari from the World Economic Forum, from the Davos crowd, that comes into lectures and lecturing people like, yeah, religion is for the stupid, ignorant little people. There's no more God that sits above the clouds. That's
This
an
is what
old
I
myth.
referenced before is our whole world. It's
Yeah,
all
no, no,
about
no. He's coming to
economics
your
today.
no, no. But he's also very, 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 very offensive. Call him gay or a faggot, he will be offended. But when he says those things to devoutly religious people or even traditionally religious people, such as myself. I'm traditional. I'm not ultra orthodox to the conservative side and not fully secularist, but it's coming to people. There's no more imaginary God that sits above the clouds anymore. There's only our clouds, on our digital clouds. You know what he means, or he's referring to. And he also wrote a series of fictional books. The most offending and controversial one is God is dead. Now it's only a matter of time until we find the body. I mean, this, I- you know what? I don't even have to be a rabbi, a reverend, a priest, or imam to know this guy is completely off. He's power drunk. He think just like kind of like the elites. He think he's a god in his own eyes. He's enlightened. He knows he's above us. He's above everything else. He's even above that concept of God. That there's a divine creator, something above you, something that sparked you to begin with. Listen, this guy is the definition of abomination. Abomination. And look at him. He's like a toothpick. He looks like a rotten toothpick who's got all known, quote unquote, known unknown diseases to mankind. Going back to current reality, and again, it's all mixed together in one pot. Obviously, we need some time to separate the streams of the different subject we talk about.
Live long and prosper.